Good evening, Raider Nation. My name is Brent Johnson, along with head coach Keith Goss of the Bacon County Red Raiders. I want to welcome you to the 7th edition of the Red Raider Coaches Show. This is the 7th week of the season. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're about to start Game 6.
Yeah, we talked about so many numbers before we went on camera. Thanks, Joe, for kind of leaving me, throwing me under the bus here for the possibly the most important week of the season. Not just because it's Jeff Davis, not because it's a huge rivalry, but it is the first region game. And these are the games that determine whether we make the playoffs, and that's what's important. And we'll get to more of that in just a few moments. Coach, how you been?
Oh, doing good. We had an open week, and we had some new maxes on the open week. A couple of our guys got stronger, added a couple new Red Raiders to the list, which is guys that are above 800 pounds on 3 lifts. Added a few more Iron Raiders, which is guys that are over 900 pounds on 3 lifts. Even 2 of our freshmen are there currently, and those guys are incredibly strong for that age. And their developmental part in the program. So, and they both help us on Friday night. So there's a correlation between being strong enough and competing. So, but yeah, we did some things like that on the open week, and gave them a little bit of time off to rest and get their legs back up underneath them. And then this week it was back to normal.
Well, real quick on that, folks, if you want to keep up with what he's talking about, these when they increase their maxes and become a Red Raider, a
Iron Raider, Super Raider, Alpha Raider, or the Ultimate Raider.
The Ultimate Raider. If you want to keep up with that, I encourage you on Facebook, search for Bacon County Red Raider Football and ask to join that group, and you'll get all that stuff, pictures of these young men and their accomplishments in the weight room, which Coach is showing on the field each and every Friday night.
You can't do much about how tall kids are. But you can do plenty about how strong kids are, and that is by making sure that, one, that they have a routine that's building them properly. 2, making sure they get the right nutrition in their body, and then 3, encouraging them to rest. If you can control those 3 variables and make sure that they're training hard enough, that they're putting enough calories in their body, and hopefully the right calories, and convince them that growing has a lot to do with how much you rest at night. And that message is starting to be understood across our program.
Well, when you see results, as these young men have been able to do this season, and then from your philosophy coming in last year and that culture sinking in again, I think that combination with the success that we've had thus far with a 4-1 record over some larger schools as we head into region, I think, again, will have an effect. Obviously, it's having an effect on these guys. Folks, it's been a couple weeks since we've had some football. We're going to discuss a couple things like normal. Obviously, we're going to go back a couple weeks and talk about Telfair and the success we had there. We will also...
It would be better if we talked about Tatnall.
Did I say Telfair?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm not going to edit that out. Tatnall County. I want to forget about Tatnall. Just for a personal note, that was the only second game in 10 years that we've been broadcasting live on the NFHS network and other various platforms that we haven't been able to get out a signal whatsoever. So I was really disappointed. Could barely make a phone call or text, much less have any data service. So I encourage Tatnall County High School to really push for something. But anyway, so that's on a personal note with what we try to accomplish. But let's get back to what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about Tatnall. We're going to talk about Jeff Davis in the second half. We're also going to talk a little bit about coaching staff. That some of you may not even know their names. You probably don't know exactly what they do, what their positions that they coach. And I've asked him to highlight maybe their best quality, what they bring to the table for our Red Raider football team. So, Coach, let's go back a couple weeks and let's talk about Tatnall County.
Tatnall County.
Reedsville, Georgia. A couple weeks ago. How did that play out, Coach?
Well, we were watching film on them, and we felt that they loaded the box and they played a lot of zero coverage, and that means they play straight man-to-man without safety help. We didn't feel like that we felt like they may get out of that against us, but as we went into the game, They stayed in zero coverage. They did what they do, and we were able to take advantage of it. We got the matchups we wanted as the game moved forward, and we're able to put up several points. Defensively, we're not going to be the biggest defense you see all year, but we are definitely scrappy and opportunistic. And somebody may, get a big drive on us early in the game, and the next drive doesn't go as far, and then the next drive is 3 and outs, and then all of a sudden these guys that aren't supposed to be big enough, all of a sudden are 3 and out in a team the entire second half. So I kind of relate them to the junkyard dogs of yesteryear for Georgia, and I'm sure that'll make a bunch of Georgia fans happy. But it's, they're undersized, but they're strong. They don't care. They're going to play hard, and we're going to do our best to find a way to get somebody off the field. So I'm very proud of the way that defensive unit's coming together, and the fact that most of them are young. We will return, I want to say, 8 of them next year. So it's good we're getting that kind of production out of a bunch of guys that we're going to get back. Yeah. Now, offensively, it was a big night. Terrion Moore, 4 touchdown receptions for 150 or 60 and change. I think he either broke or tied some type of receiving record for the school. Mason Michael threw for 388 and 5 touchdowns, which I'm told is a passing record for the school. Both are. So I'm not 100% on the yards, but I was told that the yards is also a passing record.
Okay.
So I'll have to follow up on that one a little more, I'm sure. But it was a great night for both sides of the ball. Even special teams, we went with a surprise onside kick, and
it was perfect.
You
record that and you send that out and say, this is how you do it.
Yeah, it was great. We actually saw it on film, and we put it in during the week. And I was like, after we kicked off the first time, I was like, they lined up the same way we saw on film. I said, well, after our first score, because we kicked off to start the game, I said, well, after our first score, we're going to come right back and surprise onside. And so that's what we did.
Surprise.
Surprise. They lined up the same way the next time, and we felt like there was a big window there, and our kicker executed.
Perfect.
And we got on the ball. Our guys, boat right flew down there and dove on the ball just like we did in practice, and it worked out. So it's nice when you see something on film, you scheme it up and it works. And it works like just the way you planned it. So that's exciting stuff.
Well, one of the few, maybe 2 calls that I was able to get through while we were over at Tatnall was at halftime, and I called my dad. He was in the stands on the other side, and I said, Daddy, I think we're pretty good. And he said, yeah, I think you're right. I said, I may be more impressed with our defense or just as impressed with our defense as I am our offense. We put up a bunch of points. Obviously, had a bunch of yards that night, a bunch of yards the week before in Brantley. But I'm just so impressed. Just like you said, that team went down in that Wayne T and went down and scored in about 8 or 10 plays methodically. Nothing major, no major runs, but just kind of ground and pound, just what that does, and some deception. But after that, it was over. And it was from, the adjustments, obviously, coaching staff made. Our boys saw what was up, and they made mental adjustments as to what they had to do. So I'm so pleased with our defense and these young guys that you say we're only losing just a couple, and a lot of these guys that are really putting forth such an effort and being so successful with tackles and such. You're talking sophomores,
right?
And we got a junior, and I know you don't call too many names out, but Brady Cawthorn has been just remarkable.
He is really, talked him into playing, built a relationship with him. My first year here, everybody said he was a good football player, when he was in rec league, and his brother was a good player once upon a time for us here. And I was like, well, okay, well, I'll keep talking to the kid. I'll keep encouraging him. And maybe he can play, maybe he can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
He can.
Yeah.
And as obviously he's been away from football a little bit, but you can kind of see as it's developing in his mind how he's reacting faster and faster every week to where he has to be defensively in a play. It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's but he's not alone.
No.
The development you see week by week with our guys up front, with our D linemen using their hands, crossing face and getting into plays. Our linebackers scraping downhill, where last year, they would run more side to side to where they're taking the angles, scraping downhill, and meeting people for no gain, 1 yard gain. Offenses get off a track, off of not track, but off of schedule real quick when it's 2nd and 9 and then 3rd and 8.
That's right.
So when you're not running sideways and making tackles at 3 and 4 yards, you're scraping downhill and making them for 0 or 1 or 2. 3rd down, you're giving yourself a chance to be successful.
Again, just real impressive. Another one I think of that has just seems like every third play you hear his name, Joe Harris. You talk about some undersized kids.
Right.
Now, when you see them in pads, they look great. He's not real tall. He's 5'7", 5'8", but he weighs about 230,
right.
235, 240. But that young man, he just gets after it.
The development in him learning how to play with his hands, being more physical, being a stronger guy in the weight room. I always say the Red Raider level is 800 pounds on 3 lifts. And I say when you get to that level, you're physically ought to be competent on a football field, strong enough to compete.
That's right.
And if your technique is sound, you can be successful. Once you start hitting the 900-pound club, for Iron Raider and 1,000-pound Super Raider, you're becoming stronger than some of your opponents. And he's well within the 900-pound category, close to the 1,000-pound club and Super Raider. So, and that shows in his gameplay, because now his technique, coupled with his strength, makes him very tough to block.
Yeah, and I'd be hesitant not to mention his counterpart Trey on the other side.
And it's very similar story.
Yeah, just
Very similar story.
Just a bunch of great kids that are flying to the ball. I love the aggressive style that Coach Regal brings. We saw a lot of that, even with that deception and the type of offense that we saw in Tatnall. We still saw some aggressive. A lot of times you have a tendency to sit on your heels and kind of wait and see what the offense is going to do, but you hit the gaps and
no, you read your keys against an offense of that style. You read your keys, you come attack it downhill.
Yeah. Well, it was fun to watch. One of the things we've already mentioned, the offensive side of the ball. And I wanted to touch on this and let you talk about it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about our turnover differential and what it really means.
Well, I mean, it's something that we harp on offensively. We have had no interceptions thus far, and 1 fumble game 1. So we've turned over the ball 1 time in 5 games, which is
pretty remarkable, actually.
It's very strong. That's for the style of offense we run.
Right.
We'll put the ball in the air, and we will run some types of option. That's strong.
Yeah.
Defensively, like I said, I remarked on earlier, we're very opportunistic, which means we usually find a way to come up with the ball. I think Cameron Crawford has a magnet on his chest. I think he's come up with about 5 fumble recoveries. If it's on the ground, it just always seems to bounce to him. Or he's got a knack for being around the ball. So we joke around about him being the human magnet, because I think I want to say he's recovered 5 on the season. Maybe it's 4 to 5. It's somewhere in that ballpark. That's a lot of fumble recoveries. And we've had a few interceptions, so we are way ahead in that statistic, and that's one of those things that when you taking away possessions from the other team and you're not giving away any possessions, you have a chance to be successful. I'll say the the one game we had turnovers, the one game we lost.
Yes. And that just, I don't care what level you're playing, pee-wee, middle school, high school, college,
It matters.
pro, it matters. Turnovers matter. He touched on no interceptions. There's also 13 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions. I think that's a huge deal. Over 900 yards of passing with no interceptions.
If you look up his statistics versus anybody else in the state, nobody has, I don't believe anybody else has more than 10 touchdown throws and 0 interceptions.
Right.
So there is, that's close to 1,000 yards. I don't, I glanced at it the other day when we input the stats. But anybody around that's thrown for roughly that many yards, nobody has as many touchdowns with no interceptions.
Well, one last thing I wanted to mention that was fun to watch, that fourth quarter, as you pulled half the starters. Really before, it was probably with 4 or 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Let some JV guys come in, and success that they had in that particular game. I know they struggled the first couple true JV games
Right.
we've had, but to see them come in and have some success, but I think more importantly is what I saw on the sidelines, is how excited not only the coaching staff was with the success of these young men, but also those starters that came out.
Well, here's the reality. When we go to a JV game, we're playing a lot of our young guys.
Mm-hmm.
But we just talked about how many of our young guys were actually starting on defense already.
That's right.
So, and they're not really playing with what is truly their classic guys. We're not playing with all the freshmen on Thursday. We're not playing with all the sophomores on Thursday. We're playing with guys that we're still developing, and they're getting an opportunity to, play with some of their peers on Friday night. And granted, the other teams, been worn down by that point in the game, but they're having a chance to have success underneath the lights, and that's exciting for our guys. That's something that's going to keep them out there and keep them excited about playing. And anytime that you can come away with a win and you can get some of your young guys some experience underneath the lights, their eyes won't be nearly as big the next time when you need them to play in that scenario.
That's right. So, and that's good to again, like you said, to be able to give them that opportunity on a Friday night, because it's different than playing on a Thursday afternoon.
It's way different.
It's way different. You still have to execute. A lot of times you see guys come in and there's snaps or miss and there's fumbles and bumbling and tripping and stumbling, and but we didn't see that the other night with that group of guys.
No.
They just seamlessly carried on what the varsity had been able to do for 2.5 quarters prior to that.
Yeah, Nkosi was pretty impressive. He does start defensive back for us. He's one of our sophomores. But for him to pull, he only gets limited time in a crossover when we do crossover individual work. So he gets limited offensive time. So for him to pull it on his own read when somebody crashed, and then read the outside linebacker coming in and take it and flip it to the receiver on the bubble and read out really a phase of triple option in our spread run game. That was pretty impressive for the amount of reps he gets at it in practice, and to execute it and throw the ball the way he did. That was pretty nifty.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that everybody can have an opportunity for success. And I think that just, again, that's part of this new culture that we're putting in place, and the success we've had. It allows for that to happen. Well, Coach, before we take a break, let's talk a little bit about the coordinators before we, and then after the break, maybe toward the end, we'll talk about. So tell me a little bit about tell everybody who your offensive coordinator is.
Our offensive coordinator is Brian Watson. Coach Watson has worked a few different places over the year, but he came from me from Windsor Forest, and but I've known him. He's worked at Brunswick High before. He's worked at Valdosta High. He's worked at Berks County, and we were excited to be able to get him. He's a steal for our program and our community. He is coaching the O-line, which is near and dear to my heart, because that's what I played and coached for years and years and years. but he's one of the few that I'm comfortable with coaching the offensive line, and that says a lot because that group of guys fits on less than one hand. So there's just not many guys that I trust to coach my O-line, that they're going to coach it the way I want it coached. And he's done just a remarkable job. You know, we talked about a lot of stats with, you know, yards here and there. Probably the most telling fact is 5 games and 0 sacks. When you can go through 5 football games, and I don't care what offensive style you're running, your quarterback can throw for almost 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, and there's been 0 sacks. Part of that is how Mason gets out the ball and understands where to go with it, but that doesn't happen without people protecting the quarterback.
Sure, and Coach, we played some big physical teams.
Right.
Irregardless of what our opponent's record says,
Right.
these guys we played some defensive lines. They got after it.
And they have some dudes. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. But Coach Watson has, I think, called every play this year but one. I called one, didn't work out well. Let Coach Watson keep calling. So he's just done a remarkable job of putting us in the right situation, and you know, we're excited to have him here as a Red Raider.
All right, well, let's tell you what. Let's just stay on the offensive side of the ball. All right, you just pick who you want to go with next.
Coach John David Sellers is my offensive. Well, he helps out with the passing game. He's my quarterback coach. He is coming from us from up in Tennessee, where he coached in college. Then he became a head coach at a private school, and you know, I coached him years and years ago in Appling County, and that's where we had a connection, and we talked forever about working together one day, and this opportunity presented itself close to where, you know, Mom and the rest of the family is, and so you know, he was ready to come back to Georgia, and so it was just the right fit, and you know, he does a great job of preparing our quarterbacks and our passing game, and really does a lot on that end. I think he's also labeled the special teams coordinator, and he does run a couple of our special teams for us, is really good with our kickoff return. But he, you know, he's just a great fit for us here, and we're happy to have him here.
Yeah.
And then Brad Thomas. Brad played for me in Mackin. He was my quarterback my first year there, and you know, kept talking to him while he was going through school, and he eventually decided he wanted to go into education and be a math teacher, and well, the rest is kind of history. He was over at Frederica helping them for 2 years and won a championship over in the private school league. Does a great job with our receivers, does a great job of getting those guys where they need to be and understanding their responsibilities. So he's just done a great job with that, and then we're excited to have him here. I keep getting told he does a great job in the classroom.
Yeah.
So it's always nice when you have a hire as a math teacher and can do it in the classroom, do it on the field.
That's right.
And so we're definitely excited to have him here. So he's a new addition for us this year. And then our running backs coach, that's me. And I got
You got some. I mean, no offense, but you got 2 kids that make you look pretty good.
I don't have to coach very hard. I have 2 pretty talented kids.
Yeah.
You know, they both can make you look real smart. They're doing a great job protecting the football. We work on that. They're going to hold on to the rock, or the next one's going to be in.
Yeah.
So, but they do a great job. They're unselfish. They're part of that pass protection I talked about with the offensive line, because they fit into the pass protection and the things and the way we protect. And so, for a running back, you know, they're doing their part. It's not flashy and it's not glamorous. And you know, the first 2 games, I think both of them had nearly 100 yards rushing apiece, and then the second and third game, and then the 4th and 5th game, we throw for a lot, and you know, we don't run for nearly as much. I think they both rushed for about 50 yards, but it's because what the teams were giving us. No complaints, not I, me bone in them. You know, this is what we're doing to win, and they embrace that, and that's exciting because they're being team guys.
That's right.
It's not about them. They may carry the ball 10, 15 times a night. If that's what a team's giving us, they may pass protect all night like they did against Tattnall County. I think we lined up and just pounded them on one drive when they finally put a safety high. And they did their job. There's no animosity between them. They're rolling in and out. I don't have a starting running back and a backup. I have 2 starting running backs. Yeah. And we're in a 1 running back system, but I can roll those guys, and they both are tremendous talents. So
I think either one of them could run for a lot of teams in a lot of different regions and classifications. They're that good. Even Bruce is a senior and Guyton as a sophomore.
Right.
Just real impressive. So I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, yes, we're going to finally talk about Jeff Davis and the showdown this weekend. And then we're also going to take a few moments to touch on the defensive side of the ball, the coaching staff there as well. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a moment. How long? Welcome back to the Red Raider Coaches Show. My name is Brent Johnson, along with Coach Keith Goss of your Bacon County Red Raiders. Coach, before we do talk about Jeff Davis, Big Red headed over to our first region game this year and how important that is. Let's finish up on the defensive side of the ball with the coaches that you have there. Just letting you guys at home and gals know. I have a lot of questions that I can't answer when people say who coaches this and who coaches that, and I'm not certain, but I will be now, and you as well, as to who does what. So who is the defensive coordinator?
Defensive coordinator is Todd Regal, and he also coaches our D-line. Coach Regal comes to us from Coffee High School. Before that, he's worked a couple different places. Got his start in Ware County. So I've known Coach Regal since college. While I was at Valdosta State on the offensive line, he played defensive end there. And so obviously I've known him for a long time. I trust him. He was in my wedding. I was in his. So needless to say, I know the guy and I trust him on multiple levels, and the football field is no different. He's very sound in the way he goes about things. He's going to be a technician when it comes to defensive line play, and I think that's really starting to show with the way our defensive line is playing. He's very methodical in the way he approaches things, but we're blessed to have him here as part of our program.
One side note with Coach Regal, tell me if I'm wrong, but he's got a sense of humor about him.
He does,
which is unique for, I guess, a defensive coordinator guy.
But it's really, he's got that personality that when you get to know him, you realize how funny he is.
Yeah.
But when you first meet him, you're just kind of like, you don't know how to take him.
You don't have to take him, that's right.
But he's funny. There ain't no doubt. And then our secondary coach, Coach Scott Brown. Mm-hmm. Coach Brown has been a Red Raider for a long time. He's also my assistant head coach, and he is that because of the wisdom he brings. I've been around football a long time, but he's been around it a little longer than me. Mm-hmm. And there's times where his wisdom is valuable and brings a lot to the program, his years of experience, and I don't know anybody that cuts a better game field. I literally don't.
That takes time and experience.
It takes time and experience.
Right.
I mean, because he's better at it than me, by God, I can tell you that. So he brings a plethora of knowledge and experience that goes beyond just X's and O's on the field, but running a program.
Well, that's one of those positions, kind of like the running backs. He's got some kids back there that know how to play. They understand the game of football, and they kind of help make him look good. But we can see the progression that even our DBs have made, especially since last year.
Right. Well, no, there's a lot of young guys playing back there I will say they're athletic.
Mhm.
But now you look at some of the plays they're making, and it's because of the knowledge that he's putting
That's
into
routine.
them.
I understand.
And he is growing them up a lot faster than you hope not to have to play sophomores on a Friday night.
Right.
You hope not to have to play freshmen on a Friday night. I hope we get to that point here,
Right.
where we're playing all juniors and seniors on the field. We're playing all freshmen and sophomores, and on Thursday nights.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, it may never completely be that way here, but I feel like those guys are prepared because they were out there with us as freshmen. And once you have a year of knowledge underneath your belt, and if you're physically strong enough to compete,
Mhm.
you can help the team.
Yeah. Well,
it's rare to have a freshman just step on the field and be strong, like the two we have
yeah.
that do have 900 pounds on 3 lifts.
Mhm.
Their athletic strength, they don't know everything we want them to know in the game yet.
Right.
I'm just going to be honest.
But they can compete
But
because
they can
of
compete
their physicality.
because how strong they are and how physical they are. So, but Coach Brown just does a great job for us in the secondary. His assistant, Coach Gomez, we brought him up from the middle school. Coach Brown threatens to retire on me one day, and so we're fortunate enough to be grooming our next guy. And he's doing a great job learning the scheme, learning our expectations, learning what it is that there's a lot more to football than just calling plays on Friday night. And he's learning that too. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, and he's starting to figure out what it's all about. And I think he's going to make a great coach down the line. And we're fortunate to be in a situation where we can groom him when Coach Brown finally does retire on me, which he doesn't know, which is actually never. But if he does for some reason, we're prepared. And with the next coach up. And so that brings us to Coach McKenzie, who is our linebacker coach and just a sponge when it comes to learning defense and different schemes and techniques. He is a student of the game, and his story is kind of crazy. Coach McKenzie has been everything from a youth pastor to a police officer to running a medical office. And I called him up, and we went to high school together. I've known him since I was 13 years old. And I said, he had a history degree in college. I said, hey, buddy, what are you doing with that history degree? And he's like, nothing, I'm running a medical office. And I said, well, what do you think about coming to coach football, and we have a history opening, and you putting that history degree to work? And, at first he was like, you're crazy. And when we started talking out the details of it, and it was the right fit. And he brings a level of organization and mentorship. He has seen a lot in the world and shares that with our players. And very organized guy, and that's helpful because there's a lot of tasks where you have to be very organized, and there's stuff that I don't have to handle because I can give it to him, and I know it's going to be done just the way I want it. And that's, when you have guys like that on your staff where you can hand something to them and not have to worry about it.
It's going to get done.
And it's going to get done, then I can focus my energy on other things and continue to build our program piece by piece.
Was that all, Coach?
That's everybody.
That's it? That's everybody?
That's everybody.
That's all you got?
That's all we got.
Well, I appreciate you going through that, and I know the folks at home that'll be watching this show will appreciate it too. If they don't, they can skip through it.
That's
so
right.
That's the beauty of on demand, right?
You can fast forward.
You can fast forward. But yes. Now let's move on to this week and what you've been preparing for the last 2 weeks. What Jeff Davis has been preparing for the last 2 or 3 weeks,
right.
I think. Maybe they've had an additional week due to some circumstances. But we are headed over to Hazelhurst, Georgia tomorrow night to face the Jeff Davis Yellow Jackets. Now, Coach, I don't think I've ever told you this. I've said it maybe 1 or 2 other times. Years and years ago, I don't know how long it was, but Mr. Mike Wheeler told me that we want to beat Jeff Davis in basket weaving, marbles, It don't matter.
Tiddlywinks.
It doesn't matter. We want to beat Jeff Davis in everything, much less football, baseball, basketball, and the normal types of competition. So you've been here long enough now to understand the type of rivalry, a true rivalry. You know, we think we have a rivalry with Pierce County, and we did at one point. But the fact that they've grown and increased in size and classification and some other things, you know, a true competitive rivalry is still with Jeff Davis.
Right.
And I think it was really, truly renewed. We go back to 2004 when we won the baseball state championship, when two counties touching one another competed, and Bacon County came on top in that, and that sort of renewed everything, I believe, since then. But so throw all that out if we can, and let's concentrate on what the magnitude of this game means to both teams,
right,
as we move forward and play the last 5 games of this season.
Well, you know, obviously it's the first region game, and we're all competing, trying to get in those 4 spots for the state playoffs. So obviously that's a major factor. Next, it's a county that touches our county. There's going to be a natural rivalry there, especially when we're in the same region. So obviously those factors, you know, they play big. You know, there's a lot of people that are here that know people in Hazelhurst and work with them, go to church with them, and likewise over there to here. So, you know, there's going to be some chippiness. There's going to be some talk back and forth, and you know, that's just going to be expected.
Well, a couple other things coming into this game. We're 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Davis is 4-0, and I believe we have all common opponents except for one. I believe Jeff Davis played Lincoln County, and then
right.
The other 3 games we competed with the same teams. And it's easy for people to look and see the score here, the score there, and try to compare who's the better team going into this game. You know, I want to throw all that out.
Well, it's high school football, and not just high school football, but football is all about matchups. Mm-hmm. So you can look at you can look at teams play, and one team may fare really well against a style of offense or defense the other team plays, and may not fare as well against a style according to how they play and what kind of offense they run. So, you know, people, you know, have different opinions about, you know, how to play certain styles, and they play their style of defense against this style of offense. And so you never really know just by looking at a scoreboard. You know, there's some teams that we've had success against that they've not put up a ton of points against. There's been some teams, there's a team that we lost to game 1 that they beat and beat handily. So you could literally say, you know, it's great. You can see our kids have a familiarity between how their kids played against those kids, but at the end of the day, it's really working our matchups against who we feel like we can take advantage of and
right.
who they feel like they can take advantage of.
All right, well, from that point, tell us on the offensive side of the ball for Jeff Davis, what do we need to be concerned about? What do you see there?
I mean, they got some big kids up front. They're going to try to do what every team does to us. They're going to look at our guys and say they're too small, and they're going to run at us. And our guys, they're going to line up, they're going to bow their neck, and they're going to find a way. And that's all it comes down to. Any team that plays us that has a power run game is going to come at us until we prove that we're going to take that away time and time again.
And this is a wing T style offense?
Wing T style offense, and they've mixed in a little bit of option game with it. So, you know, they're going to run their normal buck, but they've added some option run game to it to try to supplement, you know, their buck sweep.
I've watched some film. They're big.
They're big.
And it might have been you that somebody told me that they're really strong too.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Helton is going to do a great job in the weight room.
Now, as far as I know they're run heavy. You see that, and teams like that, just like them, they only throw maybe when they have to. Now, once in a while, they might throw in a little play action or something to try to throw you off, but they want to run the ball.
Yeah,
they want to run the ball. They want to run it 40 times and pass it 5.
Right. If that.
Right. And
if they can beat you by throwing the ball bag off the bus and throwing the ball back on the bus, and that's their 2 throws of the night, they're perfectly happy with that.
Yeah. All right, how about their defense? Defensive side of the ball. I will say this: just watching some film, they've been pretty opportunistic as well. A lot of their touchdowns have been scored by their
defense is sound. I think they've scored at least 5 defensive touchdowns, maybe 1 on special teams, which really goes back to protecting the football, because I believe one of their wins came from 2 defensive scores.
Brantley.
Yes, and they had no offensive scores in that game. With that being said, that was a month ago.
That's
so
right.
They've had time to fix any of the problems they had in that game as well. Just like our first loss of the year, we had just a ton of mistakes game 1, but we've had time to fix those. So I know Coach Helton and his staff are going to do a great job of preparing their kids, and I look forward to be a great game.
I do too. I think it will be a good game. Whether it's a close Raider win or a big Raider win, I think it's going to be a good game. I can say those types of things. Coach, he can smile and comment off camera, but no, I really believe it will be a good game. And on that thought, I'm really proud of what we do as far as broadcasting on the NFHS network. But folks, don't use your computer as a crutch. If you can make the trip, the short trip, 25 minutes at most from almost anywhere in Bacon County, over to Hazelhurst tomorrow night and be there.
Oh, there's no doubt. We want you to fill up the stands.
We want you there.
We want Raider Nation there.
You rewatch it when you get home on the network after we broadcasted it. But if you're capable of going and being there, there's been some protocols that Jeff Davis is doing a little different than even from here. They will be checking temperatures as you go in. They're anticipating an enormous crowd. I don't know if they've been doing that at all their home games or not, but you can purchase tickets online prior to the game. Go to that Red Raider football, Bacon County Red Raider football Facebook page, and there's a link on there to purchase your tickets ahead of time, is what they recommend. You can purchase them at the gate, but they do recommend you getting them earlier to make you getting in the place a little more easily. Do you want to add anything to that as far as?
No, they have just that site up, and they're encouraging people to use that, and I guess print off the ticket.
You can print off the paper. It's on paper. You just show it at the gate, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. If you got a big group that's going, or just want to make one purchase for a couple families at one time, and however you want to do that. But I encourage you to do that. Take that opportunity so you can just basically walk right in instead of maybe having to stand in line. If you can't, the social distancing, and encourage you to wear the mask as well if you feel comfortable with that, or don't feel comfortable not. I'm sure there will be, when you go to a visiting section, it's not going to be anywhere as big as a home side. So if there's as many people there that I think is going to show up for Bacon County, again, take your mask just in case you're not comfortable, being potentially elbow to elbow, front and back of people. But so again, just want you to stay safe during these crazy times that we're in. But again, it's just going to be a great night for football. We haven't seen the Raiders play for 2 weeks. They haven't played for 3 weeks. So everybody's itching, looking, excited about obviously the rivalry. But I'm excited about this first region game and the potential to where this could potentially take us if Raiders can come out on top tomorrow night, and just see how things go, Coach.
Yep, there's no doubt, and we're going to continue to work hard to do our best to secure a victory.
Well, I want to thank all of y'all for joining us this week. I know the first segment was a little bit longer. I hope you enjoyed the conversation throughout this show. Again, I want to encourage you to come out tomorrow night in droves over to Jeff Davis, over to Hazelhurst, Jeff Davis High School, and support your Bacon County Red Raiders, who are 4-1 on the regular season as we progressed. Jeff Davis is 4-0, and again, we start region play, which is everything starts over. Those wins and losses don't count. It's these next 5 games that can secure our spot in the playoff. Who knows? Region championship. That's what we're playing for. That's what we're playing for. So, again, on behalf of myself and Coach, I want to thank you for joining us in this edition of the Red Raider Coaches Show.
Go Red Raiders, horns up.